Welcome to the FF Face-Off, where fantasy football is debated.
What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here with Face Off Sports Network, also First Rate Fantasy, because we are broadcasting there as well. I am joined by my co-host Matt from the FF Mediators, and today we're going to do a redraft mock draft. It's August 1st, so we figured let's start the month off with a redraft mock draft because it is draft season, right? We're refining and sharpening those skills to get people prepared, right, for their actual drafts. The good thing is we have 12 owners in this draft, all real live people who, this is going to be a very solid draft, right? Hopefully no auto drafts. That doesn't always happen, but we can't predict the future. But let's get into this thing, Matt. How we feeling? We feeling like we're in a good mood. It's Friday, right?
It's Friday. We're fresh off the first preseason game. Chargers look like the best team in the NFL, so there's no better time than right now to jump into some redraft action, man.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And just to remind anybody that's watching, we are going to give away a premium membership to our Discord for free for 2 months to one lucky person at the end of this. If you stay in here, we'll go ahead and give that away. So appreciate everybody tuning in, and let's get this thing rolling. So let me hit the start button here. I'm a little discombobulated, guys, because I am not in my normal dojo today, but I'm going to go ahead and start the draft off. I'm at the 108 spot, and Matt, you're at the 104. Matt, just go ahead and mute your draft page. Let's make sure we don't have any sound as well.
Oh, yeah. Good call.
No worries. Cool. So we got Matt Tate in here as well. He's I bet sometimes. Ooh, let me mute my iPad.
Yeah, go ahead and mute yours, Pete.
I got my
people, please.
That's from my iPad. Shit, man. Cool. Will's in here. Joe Carlton. It's funny, actually. I didn't realize for the longest time that Joe's name was Joe, and I used to call him Carlton for the longest time because that's his name on here. He said Bowers got a rest day. Yeah, I guess you got to protect those premium assets.
When you're the best tight end in football, I don't care what year it is, you get to do what you want, man.
Oh, relax. Trey McBride ain't that far off.
Dude, he's better than McBride. You got to recognize there's great, and then there is Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers is an elite prospect, an elite player. I'm not saying McBride isn't good, but in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear that Bowers is the best tight end.
I mean, you're splitting hairs. I actually have McBride over Bowers this year, but that's really only solely because of the target share. McBride had a higher target share, I think, over Bowers last year, and it's really just because of stylistically, like Kyler just gets the ball out so quick, and doesn't really go through his reads. He was like one of the fastest quarterbacks to throw last year, and so I think that helps McBride. And with a new offense, new quarterback, are they going to I'm sure they're going to still pepper Bowers, but I think the offense is going to look a little bit different than it did last year. So,
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's kind of the make or break year for Kyler. We'll see what happens. In my opinion, I think he hasn't quite developed, as a lot of people want him to. I mean, the fantasy production is certainly there. So if we get 17 healthy games from Kyler Murray, he's going to be great. But at the same time, I think this Cardinals team kind of searching for the answers to figure out what's going on and what that can do long term. I think he's got to pull it together.
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like for a while now, a lot of people have been saying, is Kyler the answer for the Cardinals? And I don't know, Matt. I mean, I think this is really a make or break year for Kyler. They could still eat a decent amount of money if they were to move on from him this year. So it's not the easiest decision in the world to just go ahead and move on from Kyler if they were to do so. But I really do think this is a make or break year. I think we've unfortunately –
Yep.
We got our first auto. That's okay. It was still Saquon, which is realistic. But I just think overall, Kyler, I don't know. I just feel like we haven't really seen him take that step forward. I'm hoping that he does this year, but I don't know. I thought he was going to do that last year with Marv, and he was a pretty big disappointment. So, that's where I'm at. But I'm sitting here right now, and so I have St. Brown, Matt. If you want to pull up the board, I have St. Brown, Puka, Derrick Henry, Ashton Genty, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr. Right now, I have Christian McCaffrey is in a tier above Genty and Derrick Henry for me. He's not a tier; they're in the same tier, but he's ranked higher. I have St. Brown and Nico Collins and BTJ all in the same tier, but I do have Nico as my highest wide receiver on the board. And given that I'm at the 108 and there's a lot of running backs left in the tier, or at least my tier 2, I'm going to go ahead with Nico, who is I believe, the number 1 wide receiver in the tier that I have. And I think there's a good chance that I get somebody in that tier 2 for those running backs that'll be left when it comes back to me.
So is taking Nico ahead of guys like Puka, is that simply because of your conviction that you have in Devontae Adams? I know you're pretty high on him. Personally, I was a little shocked. I thought you might go Puka, maybe Amon-Ra there. But to go to Nico, I mean, I like the pick. I think he's going to be great this season, but kind of shocked me.
Yeah, I have. So I actually I'm looking at my rankings right now. I have Puka a spot ahead of Nico. So I could have taken Nico. I just pulled up my rankings now. Sometimes when you're in the heat of the moment, it's one of those things. But I would say that Puka has more, while Nico has more target competition in terms of quality options around him. I think Puka has a more dominant target competition next to him in Devontae Adams. So I would say, upside ceiling, Puka's ceiling is in more of danger than Nico's is. But the flip side of that is Puka plays with Sean McVay in an elite system, right, with a better quarterback, in my opinion, and a better offensive line. That is the one fear that I have about this Texans offense is, while I love Nico, that offensive line being as bad as it is, and now that run game taking a hit with Joe Mixon out, is it a one-dimensional offense where they struggle to run the football? They're consistently in long down and distances. And, does that affect Nico? So that is a little bit of concern that I have, which is actually why I have Puka ahead of Nico. So I did misspeak there, but I'm fine taking Nico ahead of Puka in some situations every once in a while, especially if I'm in multiple drafts. I don't mind getting different kinds of exposures there and putting all my eggs in one basket with one player. So I'll take Nico there, but I'm fine taking Puka because he's, again, one spot ahead of him, but it is what it is. You flip a coin between both guys. I think both guys are going to have a great year.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's kind of splitting hairs. Both players have the opportunity to be pretty dang good. But, after your pick, we see McCaffrey go at the 109. I've seen a lot of people talking, are you willing to get burned again by McCaffrey? And I think the answer is yes, you have to be. I mean, when he plays, he's one of the best players in football, arguably the best running back in the entire league. But, so I'm not going to fault anyone taking him in the first round.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes back to me, and I did talk about the tiers and stuff, and Puka's still there. So
Puka's there, so you can win. You get both.
So it ends up working out. I'm going to take Puka there. We had a question in the Discord today about, like, do you take values? Do you go hero RB? Do you go hero wide receiver or zero RB? Like, all those things. And I think I don't specifically stick to a strategy of I'm 100% going RB, hero RB, or hero wide receiver. I just play the board, man. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like, every league you're in is going to be different. Most people that are drafting are in leagues with friends, right? And so, like, we all know, I have a buddy in my league that we're in an auction league, and we bid him up for Derrick Henry every year because he's willing to make Derrick Henry the highest paid running back in the auction every single year. Now, last year, that probably paid off in some sort of way, right? Obviously, Derrick Henry wasn't RB1, but my point is, every league is going to be a little bit different. I like the board, to play the board and how it comes to me. And so Puka, can't pass up on value on Puka if he came back to you, in the early second round, which is very possible, right? Stafford has that back injury, Matt. Some people could be a little concerned and worried about that back injury. I don't know if you've put much thought into it. You're about to be up in 2 spots, but do you have any concerns about Stafford and that back injury?
No, I mean, it's not unusual for Stafford to have something going on with him. I mean, unfortunately, that's been a large part of his career. But for me personally, I'm not going to let that scare me off at all. I think Stafford's going to play. He's going to be fine. You know, the team's going to give him rest. It's not a situation where we have to worry about him learning the offense or getting familiar with the coaching staff. He's a vet. He knows what he's doing. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the entire National Football League, just based on his brain alone. So with the arm talent he already has, I think he's fine. But, you know, I'm back here on the clock. We have 2 tight ends go, Bowers, then Bucky Irving, and then Trey McBride. So I'm kind of stuck here. You see Josh Allen. I know Tyler and I did a video last week, I believe, talking about why we don't really like drafting these early quarterbacks in these redrafts. So I'm kind of staring at what do I want here? Do I go running back? Do I go wide receiver? I think I'm going to go with the running back. I'm going to go with Jonathan Taylor. I think he's got great upside this season. You know, we know the Colts are going to run the ball, so I'm happy with that pick.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit lower on Jonathan Taylor than consensus this year. I actually I did my rankings. I dug really deep last night into them. I tried to get them all out for the Discord, and honestly, I have Taylor at 13, Matt. I thought it was crazy when I sat there.
13.
Dude, I finished the rankings and he was at 13, but like when I sat there and rationalized with it, like I'd rather have Bucky. Honestly, I'd really rather have Chase Brown. And I know me and you we're very concerned about Chase Brown and, you know, will they bring in a workhorse guy, an early down back for him? But they really didn't. I like Taj Brooks. I don't think Taj Brooks is going to heavily affect Chase Brown's workload, where Brown's not going to be nearly as valuable. I think this defense is atrocious. So I think that Chase Brown's going to be good and he's going to catch a lot of passes. On top of that, I think the guy that I can make an argument for is Josh Jacobs and maybe Omarion Hampton, who I actually had to get over JT. I know that's bullish, but I think they're in better systems, better offensive lines, better offenses, as where, you know, Jonathan Taylor is in an offense where it looks like Anthony Richardson's getting steamed up right now. He's getting hyped. He looks like he's playing better in practice, but until those joint practices start, like, I'm not that high on it. And Jonathan Taylor consistently misses games every year. And outside of that playoff run last year, Matt, he was like outside of the top 20, I believe, in points per game for the running back position. So he doesn't catch a lot of passes either. I think he's a guy that's going to need to get, you know, double-digit touchdowns and somewhere around like 12 to 1,300 yards to pay off for where he's getting drafted right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think there are other running backs that have higher upside than Jonathan Taylor. I do think he's a safe play at this position. Yeah. You know, you mentioned Chase Brown. We see him go at the 302. Totally with you. I'm bullish on him this season. And it's funny because I've probably been the most critical about him out of anyone in our group for the last year and a half. But I will give you some pushback. I don't think that it's safe to say he's got a lock on the entire role. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he's the starter. He's going to have the workload. But at the same time, we just saw them move on from Zach Moss. We saw last year this team constantly try and have a running mate with Chase Brown. And I think Taj Brooks is going to step into that. I'm not saying it's going to be a 50-50 timeshare, but I am saying don't expect him to have, you know, somewhere between 20% of the opportunities maybe in that backfield. Goal line carries, you know, he can do it all. He's a back that can catch out of the backfield. He can run between the tackles at the goal line. So I like Taj Brooks. I was bullish on him prior to the draft. I think the landing spot is really, really interesting given the running back situation there in Cincinnati.
Well, it's also important to note that, they just cut Zach Moss. So, you know, no Zach Moss there. So that's a good sign for Taj Brooks. And yeah, I look, I think you worded it perfectly in terms of, look, JT had the number one opportunity share of all running backs last year, right? So opportunity is going to raise his floor, but I think he's going to have to be extremely efficient for him to pay off. And if Anthony Richardson develops and ends up being better, he's going to smash Jonathan Taylor. But I'm still not that bullish on Richardson. So that's why I ding Taylor a little bit, because I think defenses are going to stack the box a little bit on Taylor. But we'll see.
If you're drafting JT, this will be my last thing I say. I think you're going to hope for Danny Dimes to be the starter, someone who's going to be willing to check it down and be a little bit more proficient of a passer. Now, if you want to say neither one of them are, I get it. But I do think that Danny Dimes is more developed than Anthony Richardson at this time. But go ahead, Pete.
No,
Amari.
I agree. I agree. I mean, there's reports that Richardson looks really good, and I think look, a lot of beat reporters are probably going to steam up Richardson too, and we have to be cognizant of that. I think a lot of guys are especially you don't want to buy in too much. Like I said, joint practice is what I'm looking for. I don't even care about the preseason because I don't know what the splits are going to be. Joint practices are really what's most important to me because that's when guys are going harder in those, to be honest, than preseason usually.
It's the real
Reps
game,
are better.
basically.
Yeah, the reps are better. Like that's really where you start to really, really get more feel for guys. So we'll see how that goes. I do want to say, so I get Kyron here. So I'm at Nico, Puka, Kyron. That's my first three. Kyron, I have him at my RB. Let me take a look at my rankings. I'm only working on one screen here. So I have Kyron at RB11. Hampton goes right before him. I'm bullish on Hampton a lot this year too. So we'll see. Terry goes off the board. Obviously, there's been rumors about Terry with the whole, he's now, at requesting a trade. I'm about to pick in one spot, but I'll let you take it, Matt, because you're obviously the resident. You're the resident 49ers fan here.
49ers.
49ers. You're the resident Commanders fan here. I mean, what do you think happens with this whole Terry situation?
I think the most likely scenario is nothing happens and he gets some sort of deal. It's an interesting situation for Washington. I love Terry McLaurin. I think he's a fantastic player. He's a great leader, someone you want in the locker room. But at the same time, he's about to turn 30, I think, next week. And he's wanting a 3-year deal, not dissimilar to he wants more than DK. And we just saw Cortland Sutton get paid. He wants more than that. So it's a deal that Washington has to think long and hard about. I think the most likely outcome is he probably gets 2 years, a little bit more guaranteed money, and kind of gets close to that number that DK had. It's just a little frustrating because we kind of get all the pieces put together in Washington. Here we are, life is good, and then next thing you know, we're losing one of our star players right after we had a season where they finally make it to the NFC Championship game. So there's a lot to consider there. I do think that he will stay in Washington. I think him getting traded is extremely unlikely. If you go get on X right now, all you'll see is just him flying all over the places to teams in the NFC East, and I think that is extremely unlikely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm changing a pick right now for the current owner. So I hit resume for him. Hold on, let me take a look here. Hold on.
Uh-oh, what's going on? Well, while you work on that, I'll talk about Ron's take here. He mentions that great take from us on Taj Brooks. He loves JT, but he does think that Bucky could end the season at least as a top 5 running back. Listen, man, I don't know if you're going to find anybody more bullish on Bucky Irving than me, so I'll absolutely give you the flowers there, man. I think that he has a fantastic opportunity to finish really, really high. Bucky's one of those players where a lot of people are going to point to, well, what happens with Liam Cohen being gone, heading on over to Jacksonville? Does that impact his role? Does it change what he can do? And I don't think it does. I think he's going to be just fine. Bucky's a fantastic player, so I really, really like his opportunity going forward.
Perfect. Yeah, so we had an auto pick there for Isaac Garendo, which was a mistake. So I appreciate you taking that, Matt, because I had to go back a few times and fix that, but we switched out to Devontae Adams because that's who the owner wanted. And then I take Alvin Kamara right after there. So sorry about that. I'm sweating here. I'm hot in this room. This is not my normal spot. I'm at my in-laws right now, and I don't have the AC on in here.
He's cutting some weight, man. He's losing some water weight. Matt asked us, Pete, who do you think has the best start so far? I do want to shout out your team, Pete. I mean, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs that look pretty dang good. I think that's a good start from you. If Terry McLaurin was signed, I think that auto picking over here wouldn't be too bad. But what team stands out to you?
Yeah, the one concern about my team, I will say, is having Kyron and Puka same team is a little worrisome. I took it anyway because the value was there for Kyron, and he was like my last running back in the tier. But I would say that, having Devontae Adams there is going to be a red zone threat. And so I don't think Kyron scores as many touchdowns this year. So that would be a ding that I have on my team. Looking at the other teams so far, I got to say, I do like team number 2 a lot. CeeDee Lamb, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, really anchoring down the wide receiver position and getting 2 running backs who I think easily can finish inside the top 10 in points this year in Chase Brown and Josh Jacobs. So I think that's probably one of my favorite teams. I like your start too so far, Matt. I mean, getting Jamar Chase where you did is kind of crazy, but I don't mind people. I think CeeDee Lamb has a real chance to finish as wide receiver 1 this year as well. So I don't think it's that crazy. But I think the funny thing is, team 2 took CeeDee over Jamar, and I'm still sitting here saying that I think that's probably my favorite team so far. Crazy.
Yeah, I think the one team that stands out to me will be interesting to see where it goes is Team 12, just because they have 2 wide receivers, 2 big name players. I love Drake London. Getting him at the 201 is a smash pick for me almost every single time. He's one of those dark horse players that I could see finishing as the wide receiver 1. Does it happen? Probably not, but I could definitely see him being a top 4 wide receiver. But, he goes Kittle, which Hoff is going to love that, and then grabs Jalen Hurts at the 401. I'm interested to see what he thinks about that when this draft plays out, because I talked about in our last show with Tyler of, Hurts scored almost the same amount of points as Jared Goff, and Jared Goff goes in the 10th round. So you kind of are paying up for something that might not pan out. Hurts' passing upside is certainly limited. He's going to have those rushing touchdowns. He's always had that ability. The tush push is staying in the game. But the running back situation for him might get a little bit difficult. If we see some of these names come off the board, then he's going to have to take some shots on some rookies, or maybe some guys that are going to have to prove it.
Yeah, I think it's more of the Jalen Hurts to Goff thing is more of a nod to Goff than it is a slight to Hurts, because Goff finished like way higher than people expected. And so, I mean, I think people got to remember Jared Goff has been like a top 10 quarterback the last like 2 years in fantasy, which you wouldn't really expect. So I think Goff regression is probably inevitable. I have Hurts as my quarterback 4, which isn't really saying much. Most people probably do. But yeah, I think it is kind of crazy when you sit there and really think about it, that a running quarterback like Hurts, barely finished ahead of Goff. But that's why I say that I punt the quarterback position, because once you miss the elite quarterbacks, right, you miss the Josh Allens, the Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson. Those are the elite of the elite, right? Those 3 are in one tier for me. Then Burrow and Hurts are in another tier, and then there's a decent tier after that. Like, the points per game difference is not that drastic, Matt, right? And so that's why I don't take quarterback as high if I miss out on those guys. And if you're taking Allen, Daniels, and Lamar, you really have to have a savvy draft, in my opinion, after, because you're really going to short yourself a player at wide receiver or running back, right? Where I feel like a lot of times when I do draft an elite quarterback or tight end early, I find myself not loving my draft later on, because I'm sitting there thinking, fuck, man, like outside of my wide receiver 1, like I don't really have like a real wide receiver 2, or I don't have a real true wide receiver 1. It's like a fringe wide receiver 1 or a fringe running back 1,
Yeah, it's this situation right here. I have Jamar Chase. Do I take Burrow right here? You get that stack. It's kind of one of those elite stacks, but I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that Burrow's production can get, 80 to 90% of that way cheaper, where I add a player right now that's going to be way better than someone else's wide receiver 3, or maybe their flex. So I think this is the opportunity for me to take advantage of the positions that are going to be kind of drying up sooner. And then I'll figure out the quarterback position later, because we've got a ton of availability. There's going to be a lot of guys that are, drafted in the 10th to 15th round, or even undrafted, that are going to be starting quarterbacks that you can play right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually wanted to know, Devonta Smith, I think I read today, Devonta hasn't practiced at all yet, which was news to me until I read it today. I had no idea that he wasn't practicing. I guess he's dealing with some sort of back injury, Matt.
Yeah, it's a back injury.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting. I mean, it's something to monitor. I mean, if Devonta Smith was to miss time, and I'm not going to overreact to Devonta yet, but if Devonta was to miss some time, that would be pretty interesting. I mean, I mean, AJ Brown, you'd have to expect to really get a nice bump up. And Ted McMillan goes right ahead of my spot, which is kind of crazy because I have Ted inside the top 20 this year, Matt. So I know that's crazy, but I did it all last night and I sat there and I felt good about it. I was like, you know what? I said this feels right, man.
It's a bet on Bryce Young.
It sure as hell is. It sure as fuck is. I'm gonna go RJ Harvey here. Just because my running backs, I have Kyron, I have Kamara. Kyron has the threat of regressing touchdowns wise. Plus, I have him stacked with Puka. And then you also have Kamara with the age. But I think if Kamara stays healthy, the upside's there. And I'm pretty set at wide receiver pretty well, Nico and Puka. So I'll hit the running back position just to kind of safeguard myself. Judkins here in sleeper ADP, interestingly enough, is going off the board at 70 right now. And that's pretty high. That's inside the top 25 running backs. And in other formats like Best Ball, which, is a lot of up-to-date ADPs. Now, it's a little bit different in Best Ball, Matt, because you start 3 wide receivers and it's tournament-based, so people go for more upside. But I've seen Judkins fall as late as 130 in Best Ball. Right now in sleeper ADP, he's going to pick 70. And so that's interesting. I mean, the ADPs are really fuck with people's heads. I was talking about this with somebody today because every
Isaac Guerrero goes again.
No fucking way. How did he do that again?
I have no idea.
No, I know you fucking hear me right now, dude. No, you hear me. You're in the chat right now.
Is he trolling us right now?
How the fuck did you do that? Who do you want, Will? Who do you want? I'll put the player there right now. Type it in the sleeper chat. I hear you. I see your message. Tell me who you want, Will.
Well, we've got a question, but let's wait until we get this pick. So let's jump. We'll come back to your question there. But Matt says he kind of regrets going with taking Henderson over Tet. So, I mean, is that something that you're comfortable with, taking Tet at the 5-3, Pete? I know you mentioned he's top 20 wide receiver for you, but that's just rich for me.
So, this is the guy that took Tet. Is this the guy that took Tet?
No, the 3 spots said he wished he would have taken Tet over Travion Henderson. I like the Henderson pick personally. I think a lot of people are going to kind of fade him, and he might not be one that comes on strong right away. But I do think long-term Henderson's going to be a great player. So I would much rather have Travion Henderson than Ted McMillan on my roster.
Yeah. So ironically, I have Travion Henderson at 19 and Tet at 18 this year. But I would prefer Travion Henderson because Travion Henderson's in my tier 5, Matt. And Ted McMillan is in my tier 4. So that's the way I look at it is give me Henderson, who is in a tier that I think, it starts to things start to thin out, right? So I want to hit that running back position because when it comes back to me, maybe there's a chance that a wide receiver in tier 5 is still there or tier 4 wide receivers are still there. It's a bigger tier for me at wide receiver where there's a lot of variance at the wide receiver position. Because it can go a lot of different ways because there's a lot of talent at running back. There's a lot of drop off in my opinion. Right. And so due to age and injury, I mean, Joe Mixon goes before Harvey, James Conner goes before Henderson. Like I'm taking Henderson, I think over Mixon and Conner. And Conner's a little bit closer for me, but age and injury concern. So I'm fine taking Henderson over Tet in this situation because of where I have them in my tiers, which is I have Henderson one spot at 19, Tet at 18, but Tet's in tier 4, Henderson's in tier 5. So if I'm making sense here, it's more or less the fact that even though Henderson's lower in my overall rankings at the position for running back compared to wide receiver, he's also in a lower tier. And so the tier is going to start thinning out, is my opinion. The guys don't have as much upside at running back still that are left as opposed to wide receiver, who a lot of those guys still have middle teens upside, in my opinion. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, do you want to jump to this question or do you want to make your pick first?
Yeah, you can go ahead. You could roll with it.
All right, so what's up, guys? I've been doing a lot of mock drafts. PPR, I've been getting the first, second round combo of Puka and Brown or Henry and London which one do you like better? Personally, I absolutely love the Henry London combo. You've got the chance to get the running back one and Derrick Henry, and like I said before, you have the chance of getting a guy that I think could be a dark horse for the wide receiver one, or at least be a top 5 wide receiver in Drake London. So I love that combo. It's what I did in our last draft, so I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah, I'm sitting here taking my pick here first, so you can keep rolling because I'm a
Sure.
little stumped here.
Pete's looking to see if he can draft Garindo, so that way we can avoid another auto. So I don't blame him there. But I do think that if you are going to go with that Puka Brown stack, it's not a bad stack at all. It's going to be just about consistency for me, and I think both Henry and London have a higher upside and equal consistency, in my opinion. AJ Brown is certainly a great player, but I do think that he was wide receiver 20 last year. Obviously, he missed 5 games.
He meant Chase Brown.
Do what? I'm sorry.
He meant Chase Brown.
Oh, Chase Brown.
Yeah, he just sent the message and said he meant to say Chase Brown.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, then in that case, it just kind of even more solidifies my stance. I'd much rather have Derrick Henry and Drake London.
Yeah, I guess I'd be curious to know where you're picking. If you're asking Henry or London or Puka and Chase Brown, I'm with Matt. I would go Henry and London. I feel more confident about those guys than I do Puka and Brown, just from a combination standpoint. So that'd be my lean as well. Let's see. Chris is here. Joe's here. Joe said, I am in a NFFV high stakes slow draft, and Tet went at the beginning at the 4th round. Yeah, he goes mid 5th round here. I don't know. I think Tet's got a good chance to have the pretty good chance outside of Golden to have the highest target share to all rookie wide receivers this year. So I'm bullish on Tet. I don't know. I know Matt's not as high on him as I am this year, maybe. But I don't know. The signs feel really good about Tet, and then Matt can tell you it's not because a little bit of the hype that's been going around with Tet, where he's making some good plays, and there's been some videos of him making one-handers and stuff. Like, I've been pretty high on Tet. I like the combination of Canales. I made the connection the other day with Chev, where we were kind of breaking down the coaching trees, and David Canales worked in Seattle for 10 plus years with Pete Carroll, with Pete Carroll's son. Pete Carroll's son was the OC at Arizona while Tet was there for his first 2 seasons. It's not crazy to think that maybe Pete Carroll's son, I'm sure David Canales had some sort of conversation with Pete Carroll's son about Tet. And, a lot of coaches are going to hype up their own guys. So I wouldn't be surprised if, he hyped him up. But I think he probably got some good inside information. They believe in the guy. I'm pretty high on him. Canales was I believe he was the passing game coordinator. The first year he was the passing game coordinator for Seattle was DK Metcalf's best year of his career. That was that sophomore season. And then he went over to Tampa Bay, and Mike Evans had a great year before Canales left. And then Canales now comes over here. So he likes to feature that X wide receiver. I think he fits, Bryce Young really, really well. And there's not a lot of competition there, right? There's a lot of name recognition. Hunter Renfrow, Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette, right? Like Adam Thielen. But just because of name recognition doesn't mean a room is crowded, right? I think we get lost in that because we hear names and we know the names. We think, oh, there's a lot of fucking mouths to feed over there. It's a lot of mouths to feed if you're drafting Adam Thielen, Coker, or Legette, or Hunter Renfrow. It's not a lot of mouths to feed, in my opinion, for Tet McMillan, who I think is going to be fed in this offense. So I like him. I think top 20. I think he's going where Marv should have went last year, and I was a sucker that drafted Marv high last year too. But I'm actually taking Tet over Marv this year.
Wow.
So, that's just how bullish I feel on it. And ironically, both guys have really short quarterbacks. So
yeah, I do think it's interesting, I forget who said it. I think it was Joe who said that it's a lot of sharp money going on Tet that high. I get why you're bullish on him. I do think that when we talk about that Panthers wide receiver room, it doesn't really matter. It is Tet McMillan. He is the one. Obviously, Thielen will get some short yardage work. Xavier Legette, I'm not concerned about at all. I mean, we saw what he can do, and personally, I wasn't that impressed with it.
Yeah.
I thought the draft capital was interesting, but the production out of South Carolina, not exactly something you wanted to see. Kind of came on late. The athleticism hasn't transferred, not quite as much. Can he be a solid wide receiver? Maybe, but I don't think he can carry a workload or be a guy that carries a team. Tet McMillan was brought in for that reason. I mean, they drafted him extremely high. But in my opinion, the biggest question mark is just Bryce Young. That is the bet you're making. But I do want to give a second here for us to transition, Pete. The 704, I go Rome Odunze. Rome has absolutely been lighting up training camp so far. I really think that he's one of those players that's kind of shooting up boards. There's a lot to sit back and look of what's going on in Chicago. I mean, you're reading some things where Caleb Williams looks like the worst quarterback of all time, and you're reading some stuff that says he's the best quarterback. So I don't know, but what I do know is the plays I've seen, Rome has looked really, really good. You listen to Ben Johnson talk and that offensive staff too. They've talked about multiple times how if there's a one-on-one matchup, Rome Odunze is going to win it. They truly believe that he can be a guy. I think he's going to overtake DJ Moore and kind of become the wide receiver one of this team. I really like his outlook. I love the cost you're getting him at. So big-time playmaker for me. I love getting him in the 7th round.
I'm high on Rome too. I'm avoiding Chris Godwin at all costs. He goes right behind Rome. I'm in on Ricky Pearsall slightly over Rome. I'm in Ricky Pearsall over Debo, Jerry, but I'm also Rome over Debo and Jerry as well. I like Rome a lot this year. I'm pretty excited for him. I think he's going to be featured in this offense heavily, and I think he fits that. He fits that red zone role very, very well. I think he's going to be that guy that gets featured down there. So I'm excited for him. Now, do want to take a look at some questions here. Ron said, I started an IDP with an IDP flex. If you guys play IDP, what are the best rounds to draft IDP players? So I would ask for clarification here, Ron. I play in my home league. We do one IDP, and it's an IDP one spot. We do a regular redraft and then one player in the starting lineups IDP. If that's the format that you're playing in, I would wait as long as possible on IDP. It's like my last draft pick because there's going to be so many players in the pool. If only you can only start one on 12 teams. So I would not draft an IDP player until the very last pick, to be completely honest with you. So I'd love to get some more clarity on that. I'm on the clock here, but there is a question from Hunter L, and I'll let you take that, Matt.
Okay, put the pressure on me. So starting a dynasty league tonight, and I got the 103. I got offered the 109, the 204 for the 103 and the 503. Should I take this deal? Let's just start with some questions here. It's a one quarterback league, so someone already answered the question there. So the quarterback position is not quite as valuable. You get the 104. Or the 204 on top of the 109. I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, I'd think about countering, seeing if you could just try and get some more value out of them because you never know what this person's trying to get at the 103. Another question I have is this a 3rd round reversal? Kind of that would impact my decision making too. Of do I know I'm going to get that 3rd round to the 4th round coming back, where I can kind of double dip, or is it something where I'm going to miss out long term? So if you're still in here, Hunter, please let me know that question. No reversal. Okay. Oh man.
I mean, if it's no reversal, then it makes it easier to make the deal.
Yeah, I think so too.
You're picking up a free 204 at the 109. You're still going to get a phenomenal player, and at the 204, you're giving yourself a chance to get another skill player in round 2 on top of getting your quarterback. Right? I'm okay with it. Right? You're giving up the 503, but like. It starts to even at the 503, there's good players there, but like you're starting to change. It's not even the same stratosphere of like the first 2 rounds. Yeah. That's a good move for me. I don't think you're giving up too much. And I think getting the 204 back is really, really strong value to move back 6 spots. I would take the deal, to be completely honest with you, especially with it not being a reversal.
And I just have to say it because if Coach were here, this is what he would be saying. If you're going to take this deal, see if you can just squeeze out a third. Ask for that 2026 third round pick. See if you can get a little bit more, because you will not believe how often people are like, oh, I'll just take that third. And the next thing you know, that third can turn into something that you use to go buy a vet when you need a spot start. Or you keep that third and you try and take your shot at rolling the dice and drafting the next Puka, Brian Robinson, Tyrone Tracy, Bucky Irving, whatever player can kind of step into that role and possibly a big time playmaker for your roster.
Yeah. So I'm kind of with Matt there. I do want to get back to Ron's question. He said it's 2 IDP plus a flex. So if you're telling me you just have to start 2 IDPs and then you can flex a IDP or a skill player? That would be one thing I'd want to know too, just to get more context here, because even if it's only two, and if you're saying one flex, I'm assuming it could be any defender, and then you need one linebacker, one DB. I think either way, it's only 3 defensive players. I think I'm still waiting pretty long on the defensive positions, because defense is like relievers in baseball. Like, it's so volatile year over year. You're going to find linebackers on shitty teams that step up because the defensive line is not great, and they're kind of playing cleanup and they're getting a lot of tackles. Like, there's no reason, in my opinion, unless you're filling out a really, really heavy lineup for defenders. Like, I'm still probably waiting. Maybe once you get to like the 10th round, then you can start kind of chipping away at some really, really big players like a Kyle Hamilton, or a Max Crosby. And I would say target the D line first. Straight IDP flex any defender. Yeah, I would. And if it's linebacker DB, that flex should be a defensive lineman. Or an edge defender. And so I would go for Max Crosby. There's a lot of good edge defenders and those kind of guys that you can get. So,
yeah. I don't have much to add on the IDP side, but I do like the way you're breaking that down, Pete. I think Joe said it best. Context matters when we're talking about IDP leagues and, what the setup is. Again, I don't have a ton of experience with it, but I do know when you're kind of breaking it down, you got to think about it a lot more than, a traditional fantasy lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting to our draft, and keep the questions coming, guys, if you have other questions. There was a question up here that I forgot. It was from Rohit. I'm going to pull this real quick, but before we answer this, I want to take a knowledge of the draft board. And then we're about halfway through this draft, guys. What we're going to do at the end of this is we're going to do a duck race. We're going to broadcast it. Everybody that's in the live chat, if you're in the draft and you want to be entered into this, make sure it's known. Once this draft closes out, I'm going to start breaking down my favorite team. Matt's going to start getting the duck race ready, right? So he's just going to enter whoever comments that they're still here and they want to be entered. If you win the duck race, you'll be given 2 weeks or 2 months of our Discord premium for free. So you get all access to our dynasty rankings, our trade analysis as well. So you get one-on-one advice with us where we'll give you in-depth analysis, right? You'll have more access to us. You get, all of those dynasty tiers as well. My full redraft rankings are out there as well. So you'll get access to that, all 200. You can even print out the Google sheet that I created and take it to your draft, which is pretty cool. You can even use that same with your dynasty league if you decide that you want to draft and you want to use it. So a lot of value there. So we're going to give that away at the end to somebody that is here. And we appreciate everybody tuning in. And let's go ahead and answer this. Matt's up on the clock. I'll pull up this question. Rohit said, I'm drafting at the 12 spot in a 14-man. Always have trouble choosing between Henry and CMC PPR. I get CMC's ceiling, but Henry is safer. In reality, Henry's been more healthy in his career. I think Henry is safer. I think CMC is a higher ceiling. That's really at the end of the day my thoughts there. You're in a 14-man, so you need ceiling to win a 14-man, right? Like at the end of the day, there's less talented players on the board. There's less upside. There's less weak winning players, right? And so I'm going for upside in a 14-man. I'll take the risk. I'll take CMC over Henry in a 14-man. I'm still taking CMC in most places, but just to give you my mindset there, like in a 14-man, you're going for as much ceiling as possible. While Henry has a very strong ceiling, CMC's ceiling, we've seen this guy be the best RB in fantasy for a good amount of years. And that receiving upside is very hard to ignore. And Derrick Henry's also older than CMC. Keep that in mind too. I think he's 2 years older. So I would take CMC, especially in a 14-man league. If he falls to you at the 12 spot, if he does, I mean, that would be great. If you can get CMC at the 12 spot, that's like finding money in your pocket, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you step back and look at it, like you said, Derrick Henry's 2 years older than CMC, so it's not really like the age the issue. It's the injury history with CMC. And as we said before, and you just said again, Pete, when he plays, he is just different than everyone else. He's a guy that can go out there and average 20 points a game. I mean, he's got 2 seasons where he was the running back 1, 2 seasons where he was the running back 2. Derrick Henry has never finished higher than the running back 3. I'm not saying Derrick Henry's bad. I mean, we're splitting hairs, but like you said, in a 14-team league, you need the upside. You need the ability to go get the guy to win the week, and I think Christian McCaffrey is that. And when we step back and look at the situation in San Francisco, I think it only adds to that. I mean, we're seeing all these injuries to the wide receiver core, all sorts of issues. Who's going to catch the ball? What's going to happen there? I think the benefactor of that is CMC because they can lean on this run game. What we know about Shanahan is he has absolutely no problem running the ball like crazy, being a consistent offense to move the chains, slow the game down. And I absolutely love Christian McCaffrey this season. I get it's scary. It's kind of part of fantasy. Sometimes you got to close your eyes and make the pick. And that's what I'm doing with CMC. I have no hesitation at all in making the pick. It just kind of is a little scary.
Yeah, it's gonna be scary, but at the 14 spot, I look at it kind of like a tournament based style in best ball. Like,
yeah,
you got to swing for upside. There's less depth. Go draft Isaac Guerrero. Get yourself some insurance if you feel that way, and call it a day. But I feel pretty good about it. So we have, yeah, of course. And one more question, since it's only one quarterback, where should okay. Well, if it's one quarterback, then I feel pretty good about the trade, even better, because you can double up, you can triple up on skill players, and quarterback, you could probably maybe look at it in the 4th round after, but I would just pound 3 skill players in the first 3 picks, 4 picks actually, because in this situation, Matt, he has his 3rd and his 4th pick, so you can actually technically pound four skill players, and then come back in the 4th round and take a quarterback with your 5th pick in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where you got to play the board, see how your league mates are going to draft. I mean, if names are kind of falling, I mean, obviously the guys like Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, they're going to go somewhere in those first 3 rounds, probably their first 4 rounds, just given the dynasty format. But there's names out there you can get that are going to be cheaper. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm comfortable with those guys being my quarterback. And you can get a second one later on to kind of supplement that, and maybe a Bo Nix to kind of add some more depth to your quarterback room while also giving you stability at the position.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm good with that. Scott said, I'm ready to get off work and get to work on some beer. I had a couple beers before I came on here, so I'm probably a little bit of a head start on you. But appreciate you popping in, Scott. And Zach said the one spot really sucks. I'd rather be in the 1 spot than in the middle this year. I love the turn. A lot of value on the turn, in my opinion. The middle kind of sucks this year because it's just a lot of gray. There's not a lot of clear cut, tier breaks in the middle of the draft in the first 2 rounds, whereas at the back of the first and in the front of the first, there's a decent amount of a tier gap, in my opinion.
Yeah, give me the 110 through the 112. I think that's the sweet spot this year, at least in my mock drafts I've ran so far. This is the first time I've been within the top 4 picks, and I absolutely hate it.
Yeah. So if you are here, we've had an influx of a lot of people on First Read Fantasy watching us on YouTube right now. We have a good amount over there. We also have a good amount of people over here on Face Off Sports Network. Eventually, probably next week, we're trying to transition because we're coming back to Face Off, guys. We're still going to keep First Read Fantasy alive. So we're going to do some different stuff, maybe some film breakdown there, just a little bit more different targeted content there. And then Face Off's going to be our main channel going forward again. So just keep that in mind if you are here and you're watching on First Read Fantasy and you like watching us, on a daily basis, or, when we go live. We're going to be going live more often going forward starting next week on Face Off Sports Network. So if you're not subscribed to there already, make sure you do so, because I don't want anybody to miss out. I know we have people over at First Read that have grown to enjoy us and watch us, maybe some new subscribers that weren't with us over at Face Off. So we just want to make sure that you guys are clear. We're still going to keep both channels alive, but mainly going forward, we're going to be on Face Off. And then, First Read's going to get, some more targeted videos. I think we're looking at possibly doing some cool stuff with Coach, some film breakdowns, maybe Matt, myself. I'm probably going to do maybe some interesting defensive videos. I think one thing I've been looking at is dropping 4 or 5 of my favorite plays, for the week in the NFL season, on there, and kind of maybe breaking it down from a defensive perspective. A lot of simulated pressures is going to be kind of what I want to do. And I know Coach and Matt have some possible ideas as well. So just kind of give you guys a little bit of an update in terms of that, because we already kind of been given this update during the week, but some guys that are here right now might not know. And so just want to make sure it's clear. One more thing. We have about 4.5 rounds left. I did mention before, we did drop our Discord today. We do provide a free tier in the Discord, which you can have access to us a little bit more of a limited basis, but it'll still be fun. We have 2 other tiers at $7.99 and then $16.99 that provide our dynasty rankings with tiers, more in-depth analysis, a lot of stuff there. We're going to go ahead and give away 2 months for free at the end of this stream. So once this draft closes out, I'm going to go ahead and probably go over my favorite team and maybe my team that I don't like or didn't love their process. And Matt's going to go ahead and enter in the duck race for the winner of the 2 weeks or 2 months free premium service on Discord.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like about what we've got going on content-wise. I mean, you mentioned the Discord. Our rankings are out there. You can use those. Redraft, Dynasty. There's so much we have in store. We've also got some trade reviews, team reviews in the works. So if you've got a Dynasty league and you kind of want to know what to do with it, how to rework it, you're stuck on what moves to make, send in a team review. I know Pete's interested in doing that. Coach, Tyler, and myself at the Mediators, we're really big on, stepping in, trying to help you guys get trades done, rebuild your teams. Rebuilding dynasty teams is one of my favorite things to do. I love to go find the orphan teams out there that are terrible, that need to be reworked, and seeing if I can take on the challenge and turn them into title contenders. So we absolutely are looking forward to helping you guys out in the community and kind of getting into, having a better relationship on the Discord where you can interact with us. We can interact with you guys, just talk football, talk fantasy. Pete, you mentioned that the First Read channel is going to have some other things, maybe a little bit more actual football related, whether it's play breakdown, Pete looking at defenses. I might show you my 5 favorite pancakes of the week, because the big guys got to eat and someone's got to give them the respect, because no one does. And we've also got some other stuff where last year we did lots of mock drafts talking about what we would do if we were the GM sitting in the hot seat making these picks. I know Pete and I had a ton of fun last year when we did the first full round, and we got some picks right, we got some picks wrong, but we'll see what happens long term.
No, absolutely. So we're kind of we're winding down here. I know I just took Rashid Shaheed. I actually did look at Jaden Blue, who Will took. The running back starts to really dry out here, Matt. You're not really looking at a lot of players that are going to be heavily involved in their offense. I mean, some guys, you have Eckler, who we know Eckler has a role there, Matt, but he's probably I know Ja'Cory Krosky
his name.
But Eckler is still a good veteran. He still catch passes. He's still a good safety valve. And hey, you know what? They're going to need all the pass catchers they get if Terry McLaurin ain't there. I'll say that. But you still have Rachaad White, who I think is probably more of like a 40-60% role in terms of probably Bucky's probably getting 60 to 65%. Rachaad White's probably getting 35 to 40%. The good thing about Rachaad White is that he does pass block. He does run a lot of routes. And I think he's still going to, be in there for some passing downs. So he might be a guy worth taking towards the end because, Bucky's a smaller back. We saw him deal with some injuries that he played through last year. And Rachaad White can pass block and give you a little bit of a higher floor, just not high ceiling for Rachaad White. But when you start to get to this part of the draft, it's kind of like what's your angle, right? Are you going for a Jarquez Hunter if you really think that, Hunter could step in as the starting back in a really good offense if Kyron goes down? Are you looking for a guy that has standalone value that doesn't need an injury to be valuable, maybe like a Rashad White or possibly a Tootin or a Rico Dowdle who, are kind of there. We know Rashad White's going to have a role. We know Dowdle, Tootin may have a role, but might not be startable towards the end of the season. So we'll see. But we're kind of at a tough spot with the running backs. I got to take more depth here. I need a running back in this room. My running backs right now are Kyron, Alvin Kamara, Tony Pollard, and RJ Harvey. So I've got some injury-prone guys in Kamara and Pollard, but I do have Harvey and Kyron Williams. I'm still going to take another running back here. I'm going to swing for upside. I'm going to go ahead and take Tootin. I'm not necessarily a huge believer. I'm not in love with Tootin this year. I think he might be a guy that halfway through the season you might have to drop because you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I got bye weeks coming up. I got injuries, and this guy's not involved yet. He might be a frustrating roster clog for you, but I'll take Tootin just because he'll be my fifth running back at that point. And, I know Pollard's going to have a role week 1. So will Kamara, so will Kyron, and RJ Harvey, I think, is going to have a role week 1 too. So I should be okay and just have to hope that, Tootin ends up getting a role by the time buys or injuries start to roll around.
Yeah, I like Bashal Tootin. I mean, he's one of those players, like you said, you're probably going to know pretty early of what you need to do with him, whether you can drop him and move on. But he's someone that's in that situation where he could easily be the running back 1. Maybe he beats out Etienne, beats out Tank Bigsby, or he could be the running back 3. So there's a lot of variables there. I do think Bashal Tootin will be used long term. I think it speaks a lot that this ownership and this new GM regime went and paid the price for him. I mean, they spent, what was it, a 3rd round pick on him? Or no, it was the 1st of the 4th round. I'm sorry. Is that significant capital? No, not necessarily, but it is interesting enough given the fact that we've already seen this team kind of split the workload between Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne, and they're just searching for someone to step up. I mean, both of them have kind of underperformed. Etienne started stronger at the beginning. Last year didn't play as well. Last year, Tank Bigsby was great, but to start off his career, he didn't play that well. So both players have kind of been inconsistent. Maybe Bashal Tootin steps up and takes advantage of the opportunity there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, Tank Bigsby so far in camp, he's been getting a lot of like the first down runs or the first runs of 11 on 11s. And so look, I think with Bigsby's going to be a guy that can be a flex play. I don't think he's ever going to be your RB2 this season. And I could be wrong about that, but there's too many mouths to feed. I don't think he's going to be a big guy in the receiving game. And he's going to be a little touchdown dependent, right? He's going to have to be extremely efficient behind a bad offensive line. So I think that's my concern with Bigsby, Matt, is that, bad offensive line, right? And has 2 other guys around him that are going to take the receiving work. Right. So he's not going to catch a ton of passes. He's going to be touchdown dependent and yardage dependent. Right. And he's behind an offensive line that might not give him a lot of room to work. And so that's my concern with Bigsby, is the fact that like he's going to have to be uber efficient behind that offensive line. Jonathan Taylor-esque. Now, I say that tongue in cheek because we're not expecting him to be, and he doesn't have to be Jonathan Taylor to pay off. But my point is, Jonathan Taylor is at least behind a good offensive line. This is Bigsby, who's similar, who doesn't catch a lot of passes. He's actually worse when it comes to catching the football, a lot worse. And you're looking at a guy who's behind a way worse offensive line who has guys around him that are going to eat into the workload. Jonathan Taylor, opportunity share, number 1 in the NFL. Bigsby, I mean, what is he going to get this year, Matt? Maybe a 40% opportunity share if he is that RB1 on early downs. And then, Tootin and Etienne are splitting the 60%, 30-30, but they're getting the receiving work. Like, I just think that I'd rather take a shot on Etienne or Tootin based on the offensive line, the scheme, and based on their skill sets.
Yeah, I'm with you there. If I'm drafting one of these guys, it's going to be Etienne. I think just given the capital, the name value, he has the best chance to be the guy. And then after that, I would skip Tank Bigsby and I'd just wait for Bashal Tootin. the thing you have to mention about Bashal Tutin, fastest 40 of all the running backs at the combine. The dude is electric. It shows up on tape too. If you go back and watch him at Virginia Tech, very explosive, very good in space, has the ability to make people miss. He's got a track background, so you like to see that in some of a running back. So he's someone, I knew that pick was coming, by the way. I almost took him just so you couldn't, and I wish I would have. And that's Cedric Tillman, for those of you following along. But yeah, I like Bashal Tutin. You know, you're drafting him in the 12th round. It is what it is, man.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think so. When I start to get to the end of this draft, Matt, and just the end of many drafts, I'm not really looking for receivers as much for my last few picks here. A lot of receivers, there's going to be weekly flex play receivers out there on waivers. Because the thing with receivers is you're going to find it easier to pick up a receiver to start in your flex on a weekly basis than you are a running back, right? If you need running back help. And so at the running back position, there's a lot of upside. We've seen a lot of young guys step up and play, well in their rookie season. When you look at the guys that are left on the board, you have a guy like Roshan Johnson who might get that early down work. He's not the guy I'm targeting here. I'm looking at DJ Giddens. I'm looking at Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Those are the two guys that I would want the most that are available right now. And then it's probably Taj Brooks and Woody Marks for me, just on their situations alone. I love DJ Giddens because for me, I look at DJ Giddens, and I'm going to take him here anyway. I'll put my money where my mouth is. But I like DJ Giddens because he's not going to get any work. We know that. He's not going to get much work at all if Jonathan Taylor's healthy. But Jonathan Taylor's missed over 4 games like the last 3 seasons, right? He's only had 1 season fully healthy. He's good to miss 4 games at minimum. And so DJ Giddens will step, in my opinion, he's going to be the RB2. I think he's going to step into a workhorse workload if there is a chance that Taylor misses any time, which he has in the past. And you're going to get, some RB2 upside, maybe high-end RB2 upside with DJ Giddens if he is the starter when Taylor subsequently misses games, which he's been known to do so. So I'll take DJ Giddens, understanding, look, at the end of the day, he's not going to give you any value unless Taylor's injured. But at the end of your drafts here, if you can hold on to him and not drop him if your team stays healthy, I'm okay rostering Giddens. And that's kind of how I feel with Taj Brooks, who you just took. And honestly, I kind of feel the same way about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. But the difference with Merritt is Merritt might have some standalone value, possibly, right, if he is the real deal. There is a possibility for him to get standalone value and beat out an Austin Eckler. Hell, even beat out Brian Robinson Jr., who I think is better than people think, but he is what he is. He's a grinder, right? He's not going to flash a ton of upside, Matt, but I think Merritt has a chance to have standalone value where Giddens might be a guy you end up dropping halfway through the season because you deal with some injuries and you get some buys, right? But I'm fine taking DJ Giddens and just hoping that my team stays healthy because we're at the last 2 picks. The last 2 picks on your roster, you have to be flexible in my head, Matt, of being okay to drop them in season, right? You can't be married to those picks. So I'll take DJ Giddens off of that. And you actually lose out on Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Maybe I'm going to take it next because he goes right after you.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a lot of running backs that I love, and I've talked about so much ad nauseum this offseason. Giddens, Taj Brooks, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Those are guys that I'm taking shots on. It might pan out to nothing, but I do think there's an opportunity for one of these guys somewhere. If we're talking about the draft strategy, I mean, I took 5 wide receivers pretty early. 5 of my first 7 picks were wide receivers, and I haven't taken another one since. But those are guys that I believe in. So I think I'm pretty set that position. Like you said, if I need a flex start due to buys, maybe an injury or something comes up, I can pick someone up off waivers. Getting those running backs is much harder. I have 2 staple starters, and then the rest are kind of just – I don't know. It's a hope and a prayer sometimes. So I've got to find some opportunities. Ordinarily, I'm not someone that says draft your handcuff. I took Zach Charbonnet here. It kind of limits your upside. But at these later rounds, I love drafting someone else's handcuff. You mentioned DJ Giddens because Jonathan Taylor's always hurt. We've got Taj Brooks if Chase Brown gets banged up. There's all sorts of names that I like taking just to kind of see if something happens, I can trade them to the other manager. I can start them, do what I need to do to make my team better. But I am going to finish out my draft here and take Thornton from the Raiders. I think it's interesting. He continues to work with the ones, and that has been the case for, almost 2 weeks in a row now. He has been working with the ones. So I really like the opportunity there. We'll see what happens with Jack Besh, but we're talking about the 15th round, so not a ton of breakdown there.
Perfect. I'm taking a look here at some of the some of the teams, because I'm going to have to rate them. What I'm going to say here is, while we're here, Matt, why don't you start getting the duck race ready? If you are in the chat right now, so I know right now on First Read Fantasy, we have 9 live, right? We have 6 people live here on Face Off. If you are here, you're interested in being entered, we do appreciate you. We're giving away 2 months for free in our Discord premium channels, right? That's going to have all of our dynasty rankings plus tiers, right? You'll have all access to us, as well as in-depth trade analysis and all that good stuff that we've already talked about today. So if you are interested, please let us know in the comment section if you're interested. So Matt Tate said he's going to be in, so we'll have Matt. And while we're here, comment, let us know if you want to be entered into this. We'll get you entered into the duck race. I'm going to start looking over some of these rosters right now, and Matt's going to start getting the duck race in order.
I've got the duck race in, so I'll get your name in here, Matt. If you guys are still in here and you're in the chat, throw the word duck in there. Let us know if you want to be in there, and we will put you in there to get an opportunity to be in our Discord. I am going to answer this quick dynasty question here, Pete. It says T. Higgins in a late 2026 third-round pick for Cam Scatterbo in a late 26 first. Dynasty 10 team, who would you rather have? Me personally, I'd rather have T. Higgins. I'm pretty high on T. Higgins. I think he's going to be someone that you're going to want to play. Obviously Cam Scatterbo could turn into something. I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a starter. I think Tyrone Tracy is still going to have a role to play in this offense. I think T. Higgins, you're selling him a little short here if you're getting Cam Scatterbo in the first. I think T. Higgins is someone that's worth a first and 2 seconds, somewhere in that range. So I would certainly hold on there. But I get it. If you're kind of rebuilding and you want that first, totally get it. So I'm going to start putting some names in here, Pete. We just rounded out our draft, so we appreciate everyone who joined us. If you're still in here, be sure to let me know if you want to be in the duck race, and I will start getting these names in here.
Yeah, so get Joe, get Debbie, Joe, Will, Zach.
Hang on, Pete. Give me a minute, brother.
Yeah, just get the recent
barking orders.
Nah, you're good. I'm taking a look at the rosters now. Let's take a look. So I'm looking here at some of these. I kind of like I bet sometimes. They have Gibbs, Trevion Henderson, Tyreek, T. Higgins, David Njoku, Rashee Rice, Brock Purdy. I think that's a nice draft. Not my favorite, but it's one of the better ones. I like your draft, Matt. You get Kenneth Walker and Taylor. My concern is really more of those are 2 guys that we have seen have injury risk, and then you have Caleb there too, who we're banking on the upside. But there is a lot of upside in that room. Shockers team, I don't really love the team that gets Jaden Daniels and Saquon. Chris Godwin being your wide receiver 2 is just not great, and Quinshon Judkins in the flex. Tyler's team, I kind of like Kyler, Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, Justin Jefferson, JSN, Tyler Warren, DJ Moore. Starting lineup is really, really good here for Tyler. He gets Aaron Jones and Caleb Johnson, who, if Aaron Jones stays healthy, Caleb Johnson and Jones should get a very solid workload. I don't love Jalen McMillan at the end, but that's okay. He gets Rachaad White, Trey Harris. I'm not super high on Trey Harris this year. Looks like Keenan Allen might sign, and they have some other guys over there. Quentin Johnson's still going to be involved, but I think right now Tyler looks like, so far, at least my favorite starting lineup. Let me see. Let me take a look at Will's lineup here. I like Will's lineup. Travis Hunter being your flex play. You don't have to start him as your number 2 wide receiver. He gets Adams, AJ Brown. He has McCaffrey at RB1. And he has Olave, Shakir. He gets McCaffrey's handcuff with Garendo. High upside with Jaden Blue, Nick Chubb, Hollywood Brown, Justice Hill. A lot of running backs at the end. I like Will's team over Tyler. I will say that. So Will's team probably, I'd say that's probably an A for me. Tyler's more of an A minus. Let me take a look at the last two teams here. Be more like Moyes 88 in the I think that was the 112 spot, 111 spot. Mahomes, Derrick Henry, Devon A-Chain, Marvin, J-Mo are interesting. I think this has a chance to be a high upside team, but it has a lot of bust potential here. The wide receivers with Marvin, J-Mo, both those guys could be outside of the top 20 in points. Matt, would you agree?
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I was finishing up this.
J-Mo and Marv, would you say both of those guys have a chance to finish outside the top 20?
Oh man, if those are my two starting wide receivers, I'm scared. I'll be honest.
He's got Zay Flowers and Stephon Diggs, but I still don't think those guys either. I think Zay Flowers has upside to get inside the top 20. Diggs maybe like fringe top 20. He's got James Cook in the flex. I don't think he had to take James Cook at the 311 there. I think that was probably where he made a mistake. He took Henry and Devon A-Chain and James Cook, so 3 running backs to start. So I think he messed up there. Now, looking at the last spot, you talked about R. Bish, who went pretty high in terms of Brian Thomas, Drake London, George Kittle, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Waddle. Doesn't take a running back until round 6. He goes David Montgomery. Then he still goes wide receiver with Jacoby, Emeka Egbuka, Tajay Spears, Jerome Ford. That running back room is pitiful, and too much risk there. So I'm going to say Will's got the best team here. I'm going to read it off. It's Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, Isaiah Pacheco, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Tucker Kraft. He's got Travis Hunter in the flex. He's got Chris Olave on the bench too with Khalil Shakir. Both of those guys could go into the flex if Travis Hunter, for whatever reason, doesn't start off hot. Those guys should have very, very high floors. He cuffs Christian McCaffrey with Isaac Garendo. I think the biggest concern for him here is that his RB2s aren't strong, but he took a lot of upside RB2 plays. He took Justice Hill, who should be in that receiving role for the Ravens. He took Jarquez Hunter. He took Nick Chubb, who, if Joe Mixon starts the year on the pup, Chubb could be the RB1 to start, and he gets Jaden Blue. So I think Will's probably my favorite team. I wish the running back depth was more solidified or more proven, but I like the team there. I think that's probably my favorite, Matt.
I mean, I think my team was the best. Not biased at all. I didn't hear you. Did you give me a grade? Did you say something? I heard you say
I said your team was really good, but I wasn't gonna go ahead and say that you're the best.
Yeah, I get it. We don't want to scare people off too soon. But so let me give you the list. If there's anybody in here that still wants to get in the duck race, please let us know. I've got Matt, Zach Linton, Debbie in here, Joe, William Stevenson, Javi, Jamie M. So if there's anybody I'm missing, Pete, let me know and I will throw them in.
Team 7. Jamie said, well, Jamie wants to know about his team. Jamie, your running backs are tough, man. You took Warren and Najee as your RB2 here. I liked your team to start, but I don't think you had to go Herbert there so early. That was probably the mistake I would have said. But you're in the duck race, Jamie, so you're all good there. I think you have everybody. Let me just do one more sweep. You got Matt too, you said?
Yes, sir.
We got Javi, we got Will, yep. We got Zach Linton, we got Joe Carlton, Debbie, Jamie, and then I think that's it, unless Scott's here, but I haven't seen Scott comment in a little bit, so he'll have to try to get in on the next one. And yeah, let's go ahead and hit that. Let's go ahead and hit that duck race, and let's see who's going to get those free 2 months.
All right. How long do you want it to run? 30 seconds?
30 seconds, but put it up on the screen there. So
I'm working on it. Enjoy the ads, folks. I got them just for you, targeted. Are we ready to start this thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Good luck, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in here.
So we have 9 people on First Read. We have 10 people on Face Off. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in so far. If you're just popping in, we're gonna have a really, really fun August. August is pretty much my favorite time of the year. A lot of training camp stuff, and we're gonna keep you guys up to date and covered. So make sure you're tuned in to us on Face Off Sports Network, and we appreciate it. Looks like William Stevenson's kind of pulling ahead here.
Uh-oh. There it is, folks. William Stevenson gets it.
All right, Will. So I will make sure Will gets that access. Will, you'll get the first 2 months for free. Appreciate everybody that's tuned in. Enjoy your weekend. If you guys aren't subscribed, make sure you do so. We have about 20 people watching on First Read as well as Face Off. Make sure you come on over to Face Off and subscribe there if you're not already. I did say before, but we're going to mainly start going live on Face Off Sports Network. We'll still keep content going out on First Read. Just to make sure you keep that in mind, we did start our Discord up already. If you haven't already and you want to come into Discord, make sure you do so. Go ahead onto my Twitter at Supernova38 with 2 R's. If you are not already in there, Will wants to know who was second. Matt, can you pull up second?
Let me see. Can I don't know if it'll tell me what the finishes were.
Does Will want to run it again? Is Will looking to give that to somebody else? Is that what's going on, Will? Because we'll run the duck race one more time if you want to give that access to somebody else. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do you want it, Will, or do you want to double it and pass it to the next guy? Because we'll rerun it, Will. So.
Yeah, I'll run it again. I mean, hang on. Let me get the screen back up here. If that's what we're doing.
All right, he said pass it on. So rerun it. JT is here as well, but let's just rerun it with the guys that were in there already. And he said, I'm buying that baby anyway.
Hey, we appreciate it, man. All right, are we ready to roll?
Yeah, go for it.
Good luck, everybody. Javi, you can get your duck going. Start blowing that sail. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, I mean the Cam Scadaboo, Matt. I'm a little concerned because I'm super high on Scadaboo. I have a lot of exposure to him, and I love him this year. You drafted him in the draft, but
I did.
He did leave practice early today, so I want to see what the heck.
Javi's making the push. Javi makes the push.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. He gets the redemption.
Javi gets the redemption. So, Javi, I'll hit you up on X to make sure I get you that premium access. I'll shoot that over to you probably tomorrow once we're done. And so I'll make sure to get that over to you tomorrow. Appreciate everybody joining. William, thank you so much for passing that on to Javi. Thank you, everybody that has tuned in. It's been a lot of fun. Next week's going to be even more fun. We have preseason games. Next Sunday, me, Matt, and Coach are going to break down everything you need to know about the preseason games, snap shares. We're going to go into just not even just fantasy. We're going to talk a lot of just real life football. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do that next Sunday. And then during the week, you know me, I'm going to go live a couple times in the morning to go over some camp news. Matt and the mediators are going to go live on Wednesday like they usually do. And we'll probably get a best ball draft once or twice during the week. But thank you so much for watching, guys. And we'll see you guys next time.
Welcome to the FF Face Off, where fantasy football is debated.